great. All your stories are really so compelling. I'm just so like I'm here like a fan.
Everybody has these stories.
Yeah, yeah, but not everybody's so eloquent at giving the details and remembering all the highlights of those times. A lot of us take things for granted, and it's unfortunate because we don't share enough of our stories. And I think sharing stories like yours and sharing the books that you've written are definitely a good exchange for people to understand other perspectives, but also just get inspiration from them. And the book that I have with me as well, I just want to give you a little plug. Is everyone?
Oh, that's my third picture book. That's one of my favorites.
This book actually is Game Set Match. Champion Arthur Ashe. This is his story, written by Miss Crystal Mother Hubbard. Mother Crystal. I just messed that up. Miss Crystal Hubbard has written
We
this,
all know who you meant.
and I like this book in particular. I liked all your books. Well, all the children's books. I'm still working my way up, and I have so many things I want to talk about, but I don't want to keep you too long. But I like that you've written this game set match about Arthur Ashe. I also used to play tennis, so I kind of looked at it as a
Really?
hero. Yeah, not really officially, but I did it on the side because where I lived there was actual tennis court near a basketball court and no one used it. I grew up in Queens, New York, in South Jamaica, Queens, and no one out there is playing tennis. So it just so happened that where I lived, there happened to be a facility that was kind of open, and I it was just on my way, and I
It
used to.
was like your own private court.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it. I wish I continued it, and
I'm so jealous.
I wasn't that good, but I have a little bit of coordination, so I can keep the ball together. But I didn't pursue it as a real major thing or a major activity in high school or anything else. Which I probably work on that over the summer.
You can always join the like adult leagues now.
Yeah, I can do that. Or, I could do that with the kids as well. They have more I think options because I know the things that I didn't do. I kind of
Hmm.
want to expose them more to things that they can do without.
That is the best thing I think you can do as a parent. That I don't give parenting advice because I know people bossing me around about how to raise my children. But the one thing I will tell every parent: expose your child to as much as you can. There are far more free and varied resources than you might believe would be available in your area, no matter where you live. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the one thing my mother did. She didn't have we had no money, but I was still able to take tennis lessons, which I hated the first time she signed us up for them. The guy wanted us to hit the ball 20 feet in the air and then catch it on the end of the racket. I'm like, dude,
Mm.
I'm 8 years old. The racket is the same height as I am. But we did tap dancing, which did not stick with my sister. Became very good at it. I quit after the first day because the teacher tried to make us do a split.
Oh, why?
Isn't that a good question?
It's not tennis move. Well, I don't know.
Oh no, the split was for tap dance. I
Oh,
meant to
oh,
say
oh,
tap
oh.
dancing is one of the things that she put us in. But boxing, and I was it dabbled in MMA when it first came out. I boxed for four
Wow.
years in Massachusetts. I sort of tried to become a cross country runner.
Mm.
I've done painting, sculpture, ceramics. Languages are my thing now as an adult because again, as we've mentioned before, I'm old.
No, you're
But
not.
I still take classes. I've taken so many classes beyond what it took to get a master's degree, and I don't regret one second of it.
Uh,
Life for me is learning. I don't feel right if I haven't learned something.
no, and there's always a learning opportunity in everything. And I think what I'm gathering from you and what I've learned about you is that you find an opportunity to learn and to draw from your experiences, which I think what makes you such a good storyteller and a writer. Um, I do appreciate the Catching the Moon book that you've written. That is,
It's my very most favorite.
I have to say it's one of my all time, especially since I have a daughter and I have sons and I've always read to them and that's how I learned to be a father. But with my daughter especially, I definitely want to give her those tools to empower her, to let her know that those limits that people set, or those undisclosed kind of things, that unmentioned, well, things that people um limit you to or isolate you from. I want her to know that she can break those barriers, and it's always good to know that there's books out there and people that encourage her. Because if it's just me saying it all the time, it comes like, okay, that's she's 3 years old.
Yeah.
Uh, you
What's
know,
her name?
her name is Sage.
Sage. Oh, it's a
Yeah,
beautiful name.
she's the most precious girl, but she is also very feisty as well, and I think she gets that
That
from.
is such a great name. That is a name that you can do anything with.
Thank you. She does a lot, and she has two older brothers, so she's rough and tumble as well, and she'll switch up real quick on them if they happen to cross her, and I love how she's able to just switch back. And when
How
I
old are
call
your
her,
sons?
my sons are strong young men, but they're sensitive, and I want them to have a balance, because I always say you can always teach a man. You don't have to teach a boy to be a man, or to be a savage, or to be like a brute. You more that comes naturally as innate. I think you have to teach them how to be more of a gentleman, because that's where they can actually understand when to use those skills, those strengths, and those different those different things that aren't easy to
Mhm.
you know what I mean, to operate with. So I'm always like, yeah, let boys be boys, yeah, whatever. But it's not like about how much of a weights they can lift up, and how many kind of like things they can knock down. It's more like that's gonna come with maturity, and with puberty and hormones. All those things are gonna happen to you naturally. But I think learning how to control those emotions and learning how to control your strengths is what I'm more concentrated on, and hopefully I'm working with them as a father to become a man.
I am having such a sense of deja vu because the very things you just described are the things that my grandmother used to say to me. You have to learn to control your strength. You can't just manhandle your weight. I mean, really, I had, I guess, what you might call that boy uh mentality, that macho thing. Even though I was a girl, I still behaved more like I wasn't gonna go home and cry in my pillow if the boy I didn't like me. I was gonna tear his head off. You know, that kind of really immature stuff. I mean, this is between the ages of like 10 and 12.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're talking about, and I kind of think it's, at least since I know what a little bruiser I was as a girl.
Yeah.
My oldest is a boy, and so he is kind of old school in the way that I reared him, where he is to be respectful of women. He is to be defer to people who aren't as big as he is, and stand up for people who are weaker than he is. That kind of thing that you associate with being a gentleman.
Yeah.
But I also taught him stuff like he knows how to hem a pair of pants,
Right.
replace the zipper, and he can cook like a champ, because it was always my intention that he would get out of my house someday and also be able to take care of himself. And I think all my children are very well rounded. My girls are just as much ladies as they are bruisers, and my son, he's not, I can't say he's in tap with his feminine side, because after I started watching RuPaul's Drag Race, I asked him if I could dress him up in drag, and he goes, no. And I'm like, why not? And I was expecting to hear some horrible answers. And he goes, because all your shoes are ugly. And you know what? That was the perfect answer. I think in that moment, my baby, I've brought him up right.
You did the right thing.
But, yeah.
Like,
Going back to the original question that you asked me about reading, about how you read to your children, and that you've read my books to your kids.
Yep.
That shows are the bomb as a parent, because I think one of the best things a parent can do is simply read to their child. You form that human armchair, you sit with your legs crossed, you put the kid right there in the middle, book in front, follow the word with your fingers, your kids will be reading by the time they're 3 years old. My
Absolutely.
mother did a study at Washington University on that in 1968. It was the whole language pre-reading program or something.
Yeah.
And the sum total of the experiment with all these kids over all these years was that mom or dad's voice pointing to each word with a finger helps kids read 1,000% faster.
That's the equation in itself because the what I like to do with all right, so I work a 9 to 5 and I definitely am not always there for my kids during the day. But whenever I'd get home,
Right.
my wife would be putting them to sleep or taking care of her own things. I'd be the one to tuck them in and put them down with the story. And so that was always my time
Yeah.
to connect with them. And that was my favorite time of the day because nothing else mattered. And we did it as a family. We did it with my wife and I. We also would like kind of do the stories with them. And that created such a bond with us. And it wasn't necessarily the books always that we were reading. It was the process of reading and being with them. And then when they got
Oh
older,
yeah.
the content and the subject of the book started to really become more important or more relevant to them because they started to understand what I was saying. It was more like cuddle time, and then it
Mm.
became, oh, wait, this book is really cool, and wow, this is something that is really interesting, and they subconsciously developed that, I guess, passion for reading. And so
That
when
is the most important thing. Once they love reading, they will become lifelong learners.
absolutely. And I noticed that when I was away, I was abroad and I was with my family. We were trying to do that as well in a setting that wasn't near home. So we didn't have access to books and libraries and all that because we were in South America for a little bit. And what I noticed is when we
Hmm.
tried to get those books, no one else had them. Like actual library didn't even have enough stock to offer us
Oh.
those books, and it hurt me in a way because I didn't want to take it personally. It was more like they didn't have enough in their facilities, and so that's what actually started my quest to help people get access to literature because I noticed the bond that I had from my kids when I read to them that a lot of other people didn't have that privilege and that pleasure
Right.
as well. So it was a mission of mine because of my kids and my family to start giving that same feeling to other people and other homes and other individuals, and not necessarily kids all the time, but as
Yeah.
you know, you can appeal to children and to adults in different ways by
Hmm.
offering them literature, and the work that you've done is evidence of that. So that's where the Ever After Foundation started, is because I wanted to give that feeling back to other people who didn't have access.
It's
So,
such a tremendous gift too. I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
but that's what you just mentioned is there's the scientific, there's intellectual behind it, there's the emotional attachment, and then there's the just the enjoyment of recreational reading. I I say
Just become
recreational
addicted
reading.
to it.
Yeah, it's it's like it is something
Hmm.
that I play with those words because it's something you really do outside of school, and you're not doing it because you're forced to do it. You're doing it because you end up getting a uh, pleasure out of reading,
Hmm.
and I definitely think that's something important for our society.
Oh, it
Uh,
definitely is. It definitely is. A kid who can sit and read, that is a child who can concentrate. That is a child who can amuse his or herself. So it's a tremendous gift. Not to mention there's a book by Carson Ellis, I believe is the author's name, called Do Is Tak.
mhm.
It's Duztak. She created her own language for this picture book. It's not a long book, but by the time when I read it out loud to my first group of first graders, by the end of the book, we were all speaking to each other in this do is tak language, and it was so exciting for all of us because it was a good story, but it wasn't in any language known to mankind, and yet here we were understanding it and communicating with each other in this language. I highly recommend. I'll send you that book for you, and you'd read to Sage. Sage's gonna love it.
Oh, thank you so much for that recommendation. And
Now we're getting more diverse authors and stories, I suppose, if you compare to what was available when I was a kid.
right.
But there's just so many different styles, like Do Is Talk. Who would have ever thought a book like that could ever be published, not to mention be absolutely wonderful. There's just so, the variety is so great. No parent has any excuse not to bring home 40 books from the library every week to read to their kids. And that's what I used to do with my son. That was my favorite thing to do with him, was to just read. And when that little sucker started reading on his own at 3, it broke my heart. Oh, I'm going to hyperventilate now because I wasn't expecting it. He just said, I'll read the next page. And then he read it. And then I just felt like I'll just pack my bags. I'll be gone by morning. I mean, but no, he still wanted me to read to him. It was just exciting and somber at the same time.
I know exactly what you mean, and they want to do it themselves, and nope, I'm doing it, and you have to watch and witness as they're reading it upside down and making their own stories out of it, and trying not to correct them, tell them that it's kind of, just standing back and watching that process of maturity occurring. But that also speaks to your presence and how you've trained him to all of your children, apparently, because some of you might not have known one of Crystal's children helped us out earlier before the program started. So you seem to be doing a phenomenal job with your children as well.
I try. I mean, I took the best parts of my mother's mothering, where she just gave us a chance to try out everything. She would always find a way, like me. She is probably standing outside my door right now, listening in, because I didn't tell her who I was being interviewed by today or anything. She's like that.
Shout out to moms who's listening outside, and I hope I hope you get our love that we're sending you over the airwaves. Crystal, I really enjoyed talking to you, and I enjoyed talking to you online and reading your stories and all your posts. They all seem to be little mini series of stories as well. I'm gonna be giving some information about the books that you've had. Is there a place that someone can help or contribute to the Mother Hubbard's Cupboard project? Is there?
I've only, out of doing this for like 7 years, I've only asked for help once. At some point, I think I probably will have another fundraiser, probably closer to the holiday season, because no matter what our president says, I am seeing more and more people signing up at the food pantry that I donate to regularly. I am seeing more kids, at least right before school ended. My last school got out last week. I've seen more and more kids unable to pay their lunch debt. I've seen so many more parents just talking about the high price of basic things like milk and eggs, and it's not even like processed food,
right, necessities.
Processed foods are so expensive. It's the regular stuff, like just bags of rice, which you get a 20-pound bag of rice at Health Foods. That's what I recommend. Go to bulk food stores to get things like rice. But I just feel like things are going to get worse before they get better, and I think Mother Hubbard's Cupboard is going to be hopping for the next couple years, because it always gets worse. I mean, as soon as Trump won, I went and buried my money in the woods. I lived through the savings and loan crisis with Reagan. I lived through the recession with Bush the son.
Yeah.
I did not expect anything better from 45, and that's not a political opinion. It's simple fact.
Well, and if there's anything we can do or any way that we can help, I understand being independent and working yourself is something that you're passionate about, as am I, with a lot of projects. So I understand, and it gives you a lot more freedom to do what you want and flexibility. But if there's ever a time that you need to tap into those public resources that we all can help you with, let me know. We'll post another video and we'll help promote that and all the efforts that you're doing for the children.
I also would like to know what I can do for your Ever After campaign, because I just can't stand the thought of kids without access to books, lots and lots of books.
Well, I'm glad that we're both thinking in the same direction of trying to put the children first, and we'll figure something out. You and I, we'll work on something together, and hopefully you can cover both of our children that we're working for's needs. And I'm excited to see what comes out of that conversation.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
Wow, I'm just so excited to be speaking with you. I want to thank you for taking this open book, open mind challenge. You are an official champion of the open book, open mind challenge because you sat with me today. And I just
you're the only person in a long time who's gotten me to sit still for this long.
Oh my God.
So to you, this whole rest thing, this slip disc.
Yeah.
I never knew how hard it was to rest.
Well, I'm going to let you get back to your rest because I don't want to keep you too long. But Crystal, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I will.
It's wonderful talking to you too.
Thank you so much for taking the Open Book, Open Mind Challenge. And like I said, you are officially a champion of this challenge. And I will follow up with you. We will continue this conversation and we'll talk about the things that we can work on together for the kids in our communities. And I'm just so happy to talk to you and officially have done this challenge with you.
Come on, I wish we were in the same room.
And we'll continue our conversation online. If any of you out there have your stories that you'd like to share, and if you've read a Crystal Hubbard book and you want to comment on the inspiration that you receive or even the enjoyment that you had just reading the book and the things that it's done for you, please feel free to comment on the bottom of this video. You can also share your stories on the YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I even think Pinterest sometimes. You can just hashtag Open Book, Open Mind Challenge and let us know what you've been reading and the stories that inspire you. Until then, I'll see you all and have a good night.
You too.
Ever after foundation. Giving books to kids in every single nation. You don't have to fret, shorty, you can take some and share it with your friends for their elevation. Education is the key to success. Believe in yourself, know that you are the